The virtual YouTuber genre was founded and forged by corporate interest. Kizuna Ai, widely regarded as the first true VTuber, had the backing of Activate, and most notable 2017 debutantes also had some kind of corporate backing behind them. It's easy to piece together why this was the case. VTubers were at the time 3D, and 3D mocap technology was expensive and resource heavy. But even the transition to live 2D tracking was spearheaded by corporate, in this case, Anycolor and Nijisanji. This landscape of agencies scouting and producing mostly female talent is likely a reason why VTubing evolved into an online version of idol culture, with Hololive particularly willing to lean into the comparison. But more importantly for the purpose of this video, the agencies had dominant market share, even after virtual YouTubers grew bigger than a niche in English-speaking markets. Hololive, VShojo, Nijisanji. They were the big three. They started a league and stayed on top for years. While some independent VTubers managed to get big on their own, many others would use their indie careers as a potential springboard to audition for one of the big three agencies, because if you got accepted by any of them, you were set. But fast forward to 2025, and there's no more big three. It's just big HLE, and even they didn't come out of this unscathed. But what was it that scathed them? The Selen Tatsuki saga was one of the most infamous in VTuber history, and I'd argue that it caused a butterfly effect that impacted many agencies, both big and small. To summarise, on Christmas night 2023, Selen Tatsuki uploaded a cover song, Last Cup of Coffee. She had received permission to do this from the original makers of the song, but then Nijisanji management got in the way and said, no, we did not explicitly say you could do that, and took the song down. In response, Selen took to Twitter and encouraged her fans to re-upload the song. Now this was technically endorsing piracy, which was in violation of Selen's contract, but the fans were firmly on her side anyway, especially given this wasn't the first time Niji management had meddled with one of her projects for petty reasons.
He keeps kicking me in the dick. Why? Why does he keep kicking me in the dick?
Fan support is the lifeblood of any VTuber group. So faced with this backlash, Nijisanji did the only reasonable thing, and just kidding, they fired her. And they didn't just fire her, they went into this big defamatory rant about how she was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad employee. Just like they did with Zion Lanza, but the difference was the fans did not fall for it this time. Doki Bird immediately struck back, all but confirming that she had been Selen Tatsuki and that she had been mistreated. Next up would be Doki's return stream, and it was hugely successful. She averaged 6-digit viewers throughout the 2.5 hours and peaked at 127,000. That's a higher viewer count than most Hololive debuts. I think this was the last push other corporate VTubers needed to realise that even if the agency gave them their start, the agency needs them more than they need the agency. So whilst I don't have hard evidence that the events are linked, I believe the Selen Tatsuki drama played a role in the graduations of several other VTubers in the following month. Most notably Pochi1 Maru of Idol, who got into a dispute over Donophon funds, and more infamously Amano Seraphi, who allegedly was asked to pay $450,000 to buy out her character when she attempted to graduate. Now I should point out that the person who broke this news is someone whom I don't trust at all. However, VNU made few if any attempts to defend themselves publicly, so many people including myself assume that the allegations are truthful. Because trust in VTuber agencies had cratered around this time, and I don't blame Sony for getting out of Dodge with Prism Project in retrospect. Idol meanwhile would sell to Brave, but that wasn't enough to convince their golden goose Rin Penrose to stay around post-merger. And then the graduation bug would bite at the very top of the industry.
I'm announcing the conclusion of my Amelia Watson's general activities.
Though she technically didn't call it a graduation, it was in effect the same thing. Amelia Watson leaving Hololive The month after, Minato Aqua had also graduated on the JP side. More graduations/departures would follow. At the end of November 2024, dual announcements of Ceres Fauna's graduation and Sakamata Chloe's conclusion of stream activities. And then in early 25, a 1-2-3 punch. Murasaki Shion, Nanashi Mume, and the big one, Gura graduating. Gura hadn't been streaming full-time for years at this point, so her graduation didn't come as a surprise, but that did little to soften the blow of it actually happening, with Cover Corp's stock taking a huge hit, much like Eddie Colors did after the Selen Tatsuki incident. There was much speculation over this possibly marking the end of Hololife's golden age, and whilst Hololive was too popular and respected to actually collapse like this, it did, in my opinion, expose a problem with the traditional style of VTuber agency, the one where talent signs up to debut as a new character. If you join such an agency, and then at a later date graduate, your character typically dies when you leave. And this gives agencies that instead let you carry over your existing persona a huge advantage to play in the recruiting process. One such agency was VShojo, so I felt that they were well poised for future growth.
I am leaving VShojo. I believe that I am owed a significant amount of funds, which I have not been paid. The Immune Deficiency Foundation, which is the most important charity to me, and also the reason why I'm here today, is owed over $500,000 from VShojo.
VShojo had previously lost a few talents here and there, but we weren't privy on the details as to why they might actually be struggling until Iron Mouse dropped this bomb that changed the landscape of VTubing overnight. All of the remaining VShojo talents would leave within a few days, with Kei-san choosing to go out with a particular flourish.
Did you just say that VShojo JP itself was doing good?
そうですね。
In finances too?
そうですね。
You haven't paid me.
If the JP CEO is to be believed, this whole VShojo issue could be traced back to Gunrun at the top, withholding funds from his talents, mistreating talents when they did things that he disagreed with despite boasting about talent freedom, and most damningly, withholding funds intended for charity. There was no coming back from this. Whilst Niji-Sanji is still a big player in Japan, even if their global reach is a shell of its former self, VShojo was forced to fold entirely. I mean, if you've got no VTubers, you don't have a VTuber agency. Not to mention that they lost almost $2.5 million in 2024. So in addition to talents once again having to ask themselves if being in an agency was even worth it, most notably leading to a mass graduation at Globy, now the agencies themselves also had to ask, if VShojo, the biggest player on Twitch, could lose that much money and die, how do they make money? I said at the start of the video that 3D VTubers were expensive to produce, but the shift to Live 2D didn't make things cheap either. Good artists and riggers demand high fees. If a company was willing to eat those costs for you, that made joining an agency an attractive prospect still. Of course, there was no shortage of creators with the money and the passion to simply pay for a model, but at the same time, not everybody could do this. This is why I believe the rise of the pre-made model was a huge boon for the VTuber community as a whole. At first, these templates were basic in appearance and functionality.
Filtered.
But then some really good ones started getting released, having all the functionality of a bespoke model for a fraction of the price. It was common to see creators using these pre-mades either full-time or as a stopgap while waiting for their own model to be completed. Pre-mades took another big step forward this year with the release of the Suica model. Now creators on a relative budget could customize this model to their liking and give themselves a unique look, even if other VTubers were using the same pre-made. This Suica model was so popular that bigger VTubers were purchasing it just to play around with it and gush about it on stream. Recently, Senmaku released a high-quality customizable model of their own, and pre-mades with set appearances have become quite cheap in a competitive market, so it's never been easier to become a VTuber with a decent model. Meanwhile, communities snake-bitten by black companies were starting to decentralize and watch more independent VTubers instead. This was further buoyed by certain talents reuniting with their past fanbase under new or returning indie personas. We've also seen a rise in indie groups trying to replicate the agency advantage of each talent being part of a greater whole. Rewinkle is one such example, consisting of 4 members of the aforementioned defunct Prism project. To make a long story short, independent VTubing has never been bigger, but that doesn't mean the agencies have become irrelevant. As long as they remain scandal-free, Hololive is certain to remain a top player in the industry. I also still believe that agencies where the talents carry over their existing personas have the potential for massive growth, but with VShojo's downfall, the agency best positioned to realise this potential now is Glitch Stars, and it also remains to be seen if they can make the model a profitable one where VShojo could not. And that's everything I wanted to say on the matter for now. If I've piqued your interest as a creator myself, here's an end screen with my other VTuber essays and my clipping channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.